Are you running GDP Portals? Ever wondered how to change a seal or a bearing? Well, today we're going to show you how to do it all. Let's get started. The first step is going to be to make sure that your box is totally drained of all the oil. Now what we're going to do is remove the 2 bolts here in the lid to the housing of the portal. Once they're removed, you're going to go ahead and want to thread them back in about 3 turns. Just to make sure they're in there good. And we're going to grab a rubber mallet, grab the portal by the output shaft just like this, and hit down on these bolts. You'll do that until the box separates. Take the lid off. Set it aside. We drained the oil out of this box, but there's still a little bit left in there. So we're just going to take a rag, lay it out, and start pulling our gears out. We're going to pull our idler gear out, or our center gear. Sometimes it'll want to get stuck in there. So we'll just go ahead and pull this one out first. If this gear gets stuck, what you want to do, just grab a hold of it, just like this. Grab a hold of the box. There we go, got it out. So we're going to go ahead and set this aside for just 1 second here. We're going to want to get this gear off as well. This one, it's a little bit easier to get to. You can take a socket and stick it through there and just punch it right out. So we're going to get a socket. So we'll just grab a hold of this, tap it right out. We'll set that aside as well. Then we're going to want to get all the residual oil out of the box. Just because we're going to be using a torch and we don't want to catch this box on fire, we don't want to have a fire or anything like that. So we're just going to stick ours in the drain pan for a few minutes here, spray it out with some brake clean, wipe it all out, and then we're going to head back to the table. We got the oil out. Now what we're going to do, we're going to prop the box up. We're going to remove these bearings. There's a few different ways you can do it. You can use an internal or a blind bearing puller. Today we're going to be showing you how to do it with a torch by heating up the box. So you can use just about anything to prop the box up. We got a couple little chunks of wood here that we're going to use. Just going to lay them like that, and we're going to flip the box over. Just sit it down on there. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. Just enough so we can take the box and slam it down to get our bearings out. So before we start heating on the box, we're going to make sure that we pull this seal out. It's real easy. We're just going to take a pick. You can take a screwdriver, whatever you'd like. Stick it in there, pry up on it. It'll just come right out. So we're going to put on a pair of gloves because we are going to be heating on this box quite a bit. And we're just going to go ahead, and we're not going to heat directly over top the bearing. We're going to heat around it. This bearing right here, you can press it out in a press if you'd like, or you can just heat around it, and most of the time this bearing right here will just fall out. So what we're going to do, we're going to take the idler gear bearing out. So right here's the center of the box. We're just going to heat right around in a circle and just keep working that circle around for 30-45 seconds, and smack the box down on our piece of wood, and that bearing's going to come right out for us. Once we got our box good and heated up, we're going to grab it on the sides and just slam it straight down. There you go. We got 2 bearings in one. That's always a good deal. Remember, make sure you're wearing gloves. Some of the oil that was stuck up behind the bearings came out there too. That's normal. And also the dowel pins came out, which is perfectly fine. We'll just reinstall them at a later time. So we'll just sit these over here with all our new bearings and everything. And we're going to come back over here and we're going to heat around in this location until we can get this lower bearing out. This one already started to come out, so it's not going to take much heating at all here. That's probably good enough, so we're just going to grab it, There it is. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna lay this over here on the press because it's pretty hot. Just gonna lay it out of the way for the time being. Just let it sit there and cool down. Get all our old bearings, you know, clean up any mess we got. That's one thing with these portals. You want to make sure when you are rebuilding them that you keep everything as clean as possible. You want to clean that housing out because, you know, a lot of times when you do go to rebuild your portal, there's going to be metal shavings, you know, things like that because you're rebuilding it for a reason. But we're going to head on over here and we're going to remove this output shaft. We're just going to put it in the press it right out, and we're going to remove the 3 bearings just like we did on the other portion of the portal. We're going to find something that'll fit right here on this bearing because we're going to try to push the output shaft through the bearing. That way it separates. It doesn't come out as one, it just makes it easier. So we're going to get this lined up. Get it lined up good with the bearing. We're going to find a good socket that fits on the top of the shaft. We're going to line it up and we're just going to press it on out. You'll just press it until it slides through, just like that. And then we'll take our output shaft. We're going to set it aside. So now we're going to head back on over here. Get our portal blocked up again. We're going to grab our pick, pull this seal out, just like that. Looks like we got a bunch of oil down in here. We're going to go ahead and get that wiped out. So we got it good and cleaned out there. We're going to do the same exact thing. We're going to grab the torch. We're going to heat up around each of these bearings. There'll be one right here, and then one right here. This bearing right here, again, you can press it out if you'd like to. We're just going to go ahead and heat it up and knock it out because they come out just as easy heating them up. So we're going to start here with our idler gear bearing. It'll be right in this location. See if she'll come out now. Yep, there it came. So now we're going to start heating around this one right here. And see this one? We heated it up and it just fell right out for you. Last one's going to be this one over here. So we're just going to go ahead and heat it up, smack it down, get this one out as well. And that one did the same exact thing, it just fell out. And you know, that's the case a lot of times. These bearings, you heat up that casting, it's just gonna expand, it's gonna let it drop right out. It's not gonna hurt anything whatsoever. Once it cools down, you wanna press your bearings back in, we'll be good to go. So we're gonna set this aside. We're gonna grab our other half of the portal and we're gonna start pressing some bearings in. First bearing we're gonna press in is going to be our double sealed bearing. It's pretty obvious where these go. There's 2 big holes and then there's 1 small one. The 2 big holes are going to be for the double sealed bearings, and then the small one's going to be for the idler gear bearing. So what we're going to do, we're just going to take a socket that's going to sit on this inner race and we're just going to press it right in there. And you'll just press it in there until you kind of hear the press bog down a little bit. Then you just want to grab the bearing and make sure it's spinning good. And this one's spinning good and free. So we're going to grab our other double sealed bearing here. Get it lined up as straight as you can. A lot of times they'll kind of start down in there. If you just push on them a little bit. And again, just go through, check that bearing, make sure it's spinning freely. I'm going to grab our small bearing, our idler gear bearing. Get it in position. And on this one, you're gonna wanna line the socket up on the outer race. A little bit different, but it's a different design of bearing. And we're just gonna go ahead and get it lined up and press it right down in there. Then once you get these bearings installed, you're gonna see that they're sticking out of the box a little bit. As long as they're all, just about even, that's perfectly fine. That's how we want them to sit. And again, just go through, stick your finger in these bearings, spin them around a little bit. As you can see, all of our bearings are still spinning. So while we have this one, we're just gonna go ahead and put our seal in before we move on to the next box. You're gonna have a variety of seals here in this kit. But this is gonna be the back side of the box, so this is where your axle is gonna go. So it's gonna take this seal right here that has the largest lip, because this is where your axle is gonna seal on the Gen 2 design. On the Gen 3, it'll seal on the drive gear. We're working on the Gen 2 here, so we're just gonna press this seal right down in there. A lot of times you can get them in there by hand. We're just gonna take it and kind of tap on a little bit there. Go through. Should be sitting flush all the way around. And it is. It's sitting in there good. So this is what your box should look like at this time. Bearings in it, seal on the back side. And we're gonna sit this aside for just one moment. Our lid surely is cooled down by now, so we're gonna grab it and head over to the press. We have our lid. We're gonna throw it up on the press here. We're gonna grab our thrust bearing. This is gonna be the biggest bearing in the rebuild kit. It's gonna go down here where the output shaft's gonna go in. So we just wanna make sure we get it started as straight as possible. And on this one, our press is set up to where we can press these bearings in without using a socket. So we're just gonna make sure that this portion right here is lined up with the inner race of the bearing and push it on in there. There we go, that one's pressed in there. Just gonna grab it, make sure it spins good. That one's spinning good. Now we're gonna grab our idler gear bearing. We already pulled the race out of this one just like we did on the other one. So have to wiggle it around and find out what exactly is the best place on your press. Found right here is gonna work good for us. So we're gonna take our socket, get it on the outer race. Remember, this is the only one you wanna go to the outer race. Next, we're gonna grab our last double sealed bearing, get it in the box, get it put in there as straight as you possibly can, get it started. So all three of our bearings are pushed in there. You just want to go through, make sure they all spin freely. Last thing we're going to do on the press is the press in our output shaft, but we're going to have to adjust our press in order to do that. We have our lid and our output shaft. We're going to slide the output shaft from the inside out with the threads facing outward. Get our press set up so we can press this shaft down through the bearing. Make sure that shaft's in there straight, and we're just gonna go ahead and start pressing it down in there. You'll just press it in until it's fully seated. The splines will be riding up against that bearing. You just wanna spin it, make sure it spins freely. So now we're gonna head back over here to the table. Go ahead and take our gloves off. We're not gonna need them anymore. We're gonna find our large seal that will slide down over top of the output shaft and then into the case. And we're just gonna press it in. Now that we have our seal started down into the lid of our portal, we're gonna take a flat punch and go around and evenly tap the seal Okay, now we're all flush. We're gonna set this side of the portal aside for just 1 second here. We're gonna get all our old bearings, our wood, and everything out of the way. We're gonna take our drive gear. It's gonna go right here in the bottom of the box. And we're gonna take our idler gear. We're gonna grab one of the races. We're gonna slide it down into our idler gear bearing. Gonna set the gear down in there. Sometimes it won't just go right in, so what you'll have to do is you'll just have to take it and just kind of tap it down in there. Just like that. Then once you get it knocked down in there, just make sure it still freely spins. Put the gear in there. Then we're gonna take this race, slide it on top of the gear just like that, so that this portion is facing upwards. And we're just gonna tap it down on top. Then we're gonna grab our drive gear, and there's only one way this can go in there. It's gonna be the side with the biggest lip. It's gonna be facing up towards you. So this side right here, I'm just gonna slide it in. And as you slide it in, just kind of work these gears back and forth a little bit. Just make it go in there a little easier. Take a hammer, just kind of tap it in. Make sure everything's fully seated. Our dowels. These dowels need to go right in these holes right here. Just get them started in there and just tap them down. Just like that. Next we're gonna grab our gasket and get it installed. Just line it up with the dowel pins, just like that. And get it in position. Make sure it's as straight as possible. We're gonna grab our lid. Get it lined up with the driven gear. Just kind of wiggle it around. And just work it back and forth. It'll start to close up. Once it gets to this point right here, you're just gonna take your rubber mallet, just go around and just tap the box down all the way. Shouldn't take too much if the box is all good and together properly. See, this one's sealed up real nice. Next, we're gonna install one of our bolts just in this location here, because whenever you bolt this back on your machine, you're gonna have to put this bolt through this hole to attach the caliper mounting bracket. We'll go ahead and put this in here. Just run it down, and then we're gonna torque that to 60 foot-pounds, add some fluid, get this bad boy installed back on your machine, and that's how super easy it is to rebuild a GDP 4-inch portal. For more information on these portals or any of SuperATV's great products, give us a call at 855-743-3427 or check us out online at superatv.com. Thanks for watching and have a great day.